Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Dre's YouTube channel. Today, we'll be budgeting with Dre the simple way. And so we will start off today's video talking about what a budget is, defining budget. Next, we will talk about why someone may consider budgeting, just some reasons why you may want to establish a budget. We will then dive into how to properly start your budget. And last but not least, we will give an example on how to calculate a budget. Before we begin, I just want to remind you all that I am no financial advisor. I am just here to share some ingredients. It is up to you to create the recipe for your journey to financial freedom. Now let's dive right into it. What is a budget? A budget is simply a plan of how you spend your money. This plan, it entails all of your expenses. This is everything that you're expecting to pay out within a given month. And it also shows you all of your income, all of the money that you plan to make within a given month. From there, you can then track how you make your money, how you spend your money. And also this plan tells you whenever you are capable of spending more money without putting yourself in a tight spot, in a bind. To sum it all up, a budget is simply how much money you make and how you spend your money. Why consider a budget? So many people can consider budgets for many different ways. Ultimately, I'm just going to give you 3 basic reasons why you want to consider a budget. First reason being is emergencies. We all deal with emergencies, and we all know that emergencies come unexpectedly, and majority of the time it happens, when you're in the worst possible situation to deal with said emergency. Meaning, say, whenever your money gets tight on bills, a lot of the times that's when your car likes to break down on you, or some mechanical issues kick in to where now you have this unexpected bill that you must pay in order to continue utilizing your car at your convenience. So the first reason why you may want to consider establishing a budget is to prepare for the unexpected, to have cash sitting aside in case of an emergency. Next reason, let's say your goals. This is probably the most important reason. It's always important to have short-term or long-term goals. So by you having a budget, you are able to visually, or at least I'm more so a visual learner myself, but even if you're not a visual type person, still having a plan, you're able to prioritize the things that you really want to accomplish in life. Meaning, if you do not have a budget, you may be living day by day, unexpectedly, making it paycheck to paycheck, or making every dollar in your pocket stretch as long as you can. Whereas if you actually had a plan, if you actually had something written down for yourself to say, hey, I have this much income coming in this month, and I have this much money worth of expenses going out every month. And so whenever you do have just a couple of dollars in your pocket that you're trying to hold on to, or that you're trying to stretch, if you can go back to your drawing board and you can look at your budget, your plan, and say, okay, all of my bills has been paid for the month, or the money is already laid out aside for my bills. So these little dollars that I'm trying to make stretch, maybe I could spend them freely without putting myself in a bind. Or maybe these little dollars I probably shouldn't keep in my pocket because I got some bills that I actually don't have the money setting aside to pay for right now. So that means every extra dollar I have, I should probably be putting it to the side for these bills. Whatever your case is, you're blind. You don't know what you're doing until you've established a plan, until you have a plan in place. So the most important thing is to have a plan, and that reverts back to this budget that we are talking about, your plan of how you spend your money. All right. So with that goes anything from paying off a credit card debt to a student loan debt, to say you are a newlywed and you and your spouse want to save up money for a big honeymoon, or for your first house, or for a family vehicle. Whatever the case is, this will all fall into your goals category of why you want to establish a budget. And the last reason that I would share for reasons to establish a budget is for expensive things. Yes, it is okay if you have expensive tastes. Every now and then, you like to go out and buy yourself an expensive Versace bag, or some red bottoms, or men, you want to go out and buy you jewelry, or some new cars, whatever the case may be. These are the things that should not be at your top of the list of priorities when it comes to, okay, as soon as I get paid, I got to make sure I set some money, or I got to make sure I buy me a new chain. I got to make sure I go buy some new shoes. That should not be priority number one. If it is, to each his own. However, expensive things will be your category of things that it might not be a necessity. However, if you wake up every morning, you go punch a clock, you still want the finer things in life. You want to spoil yourself here and there. We got to make ourselves feel good about the responsible decisions that we make in life. So with that being said, it's okay to spoil yourself. However, the trick is to do it on a budget. Because if you have money setting aside going to it, you're never putting yourself in tight situations, you're keeping yourself from living that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, then you're still light years ahead of the game. Because it's not a matter of making more money. Oh, if I made more money, then I'll be better off. No, if you made more money, chances are you would be spending more money on BS, and you're putting yourself right back in the same shoes that you're currently in. So not until you learn how to change your mindset and change the way you view money, change the way you value money, stop loving money and start appreciating money. Stop holding on money because you think it looked good, and start putting money to work. We'll talk more about that in later videos. However, last thing to consider establishing a budget is for those expensive things, so that whenever you want to go out and make a big purchase, whether it's something that you need or something that you want, you don't want that big purchase to put you in a bind to where now you're in debt and you're so many months behind on your payments. And with that being said, establish a budget. Have some money going to each different pot. For example, me and my wife, we have a pot of money that goes towards furniture items. These are items, it could be a small coffee table to a lamp that my wife just want to use to, spicing up the house, whatever the case may be. However, what we do is, instead of, say, if today she came through the door and said she wanted to redecorate our living room, instead of it, causing such an instability in our finances, if we have a budget set aside where we have, say, hey, every month we have $200 that's going into our furniture pot. So, in 10 months, we now have $2,000 that we can go and spend on, say, a new couch or some new curtains. And we wouldn't feel it so hard as we would if we would have just outright bought a couch or new decorations, $2,000 worth, just suddenly out of nowhere. So expensive things would be another reason why you would want to consider establishing a budget. If you're enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. And if you feel that any of this information is useful, feel free to share with a friend. Thank you. How to start a budget. All right, so to start a budget, we're going to keep this so simple, so sweet. Believe it or not, this is probably my 5th or 6th take trying to explain how to start a budget. And every time I find myself going too far in depth on things to where I feel like I'm getting off track. And at the same time, I'm only talking about this now because it's come to my attention that a lot of people avoid budgets because of the complexity in it, and or because of how complex our minds make establishing a budget to be. In actuality, it's not as difficult as one may think. So how do I start a budget? To start a budget, first I would need a list of all of my expenses, all of my bills that I have. And then I would need to know how much income I bring in, whether I only have one job, if I have some side hustles, whatever the case may be, all of the income that I am guaranteed to bring in every single month, I need to know this number. So once you have your bills and once you have your pay stubs, you will first write down all of your expenses. An expense is anything that you're spending your money on. First and foremost, your bills, your mortgage, your rent, your utilities. Those things are guaranteed have to be on a list. Now, some of you may be saying, okay, my expenses includes my Target shopping spree, includes my Starbucks, includes, some other things. So whenever you think of these expenses, I want you to consider what's a necessity versus what is just a want. And I will leave that up to you to decide, because who am I to tell you that your coffee is not a necessity? Because it may be. Same being that my gym membership that I pay for every month, it's a necessity for me. It goes with my mental health, with my physical health, with my spiritual health, so, and I understand that people have deep emotions and deep feelings when it comes to the things they spend their money on. So with that being said, any expense is things that you spend your money on. All right. So once you write down all of your expenses, it is now time to write down how much money you make. So this is called your income. Now, this is the part where it can kind of get a little tricky. I understand that some people get paid by the hour and others get paid based on salary. So if you get paid by the hour, you want to go off of a rough estimate number, but you want that number to be as close to guaranteed as possible. If some months you may make $3,000 and then on a bad month you may make only $2,000, my advice to you would be to calculate your budget based on that $2,000. You want to go off of the guaranteed, no matter what, your slowest month, you are still going to bring in this much money. Reason being, if you plan out a certain income that you're going to bring in and you establish this whole plan on how you're going to spend this money, you can do everything perfect from start to finish. However, at the beginning of the month, when it's time to execute that plan, you do not bring in as much income as you intended, then that plan has just been voided. Everything that you took your sweet time to establish is pointless at this point. So make sure that these numbers is as close to accurate as possible. So when you have your bills and your pay stubs together, you know how much money you're bringing in, you know how much money you're paying out. It is time to write all of this down. All right, so I will show you all a live example of how this will take place. So for my expenses, let me see. First, I'm gonna write down house because I have a house note I must pay, and we're gonna write $1,500 beside that because let's say I pay $1,500 a month on my mortgage. Next, I have a car note. We will say my car note is $300. All right, on that car, I also pay insurance. Let's just say I have an exotic car and I'm young, so I went out, I made an impulsive decision as I started adulthood. So I'm still paying for those decisions by paying $200 a month in insurance. All right, now I got my cell phone bill. Let's say I pay $100 a month. An electric bill, $125 a month, roughly. As we know, utilities can increase and decrease. So once again, you want to take that average cost of what it's going to be. If you do want to play it safe, when it comes to utilities, when it comes to bills, it doesn't hurt to put in that higher number. If my electric bill on average is $200, but let's just say sometimes it could touch up to $250. If I want to calculate this number at $250, I can, just to play it safe. And if I have extra money on the back end, that's okay. Once again, we'll talk about what we could do with that extra money later. So let's say I have an electric bill for $125. That's my average cost. A water bill for $100. Internet, I like high-speed internet. Let's say I pay $80 a month. Gym membership, I like to work out, $45 a month. And credit card, I have a credit card I have to pay off. Let's say I pay $200 a month on this credit card. So I would then add all of these numbers up, add all of my bills up, and when I add them up, it comes out to $2,650. And for my income, let's say I make $3,000 a month, give or take, $3,000 a month on average. So what I will now do is, because I have my total number for my income and I have my total number for my expenses, I am now going to subtract my expenses from my income. And so I'm going to subtract $2,650 from $3,000, and that will leave me with $350. I want to highlight before we go any further that my $350 that I have left, this shows that my amount of income that I bring in per month is more than the amount of expenses I have per month. If you find yourself being someone where your expenses is more than the amount of income you bring in per month, do not panic. All this means is it's time to sit down and reevaluate your expenses. A lot of the times you'll find that you are paying for things every month that you don't need. These are things that you want. In fact, the matter is, these are things that you can't afford. So this is the time to be honest with yourself. Sit down, take it back to the basics. Wean off the things that you can do without, or some of the necessities. For example, your electricity bill. If you're paying, say, $300 a month on your electricity bill, and you have a smaller house, or you don't have a whole bunch of people that live in your house, then you may just have to reevaluate how you live, how you do things. Moving forward, in this example that I shared, you see that we have $350 left. So with this $350, we can do a few different things with it. If this is your first month budgeting and you learn that you have $350 left over, I would not advise you to be quick to spend that money. Whether you invest it, whether you save it, don't be so quick to spend it. Honestly, if it's your first month, probably within your first 3 months of budgeting, I would advise you to leave that money sitting in the account, because you want to just make sure that your budgeting, your planning, everything was accurate. And so if some bills turned out to have hit a little higher than expected, or just if anything else turned out to have fallen short, you want to make sure that you are prepared for any of the unexpected if you are new to budgeting. Now, with that being said, I would say give it 2 or 3 months of just letting your budget cool down, let it mellow out. If you learn that by your second and third month that you still have $350 left over from your budgeting, then all that means is you have money that it's time to assign it to something. It's time to put that money to work. Whether you want to invest that money, if you want to just save that money, or if you want to go out and hang out with some friends and party, you deserve it, you've earned it, this is your money for that. I will add that once you are, a couple of months into your budget, you do not want to find yourself having an extra $300 or $400 left over aside, because technically that means that your budget is not the most efficient, because if your budget is efficient, then you are accounting for just about every dollar you make. Not saying that you are spending every dollar you make, but you know that if I bring in $3,000 a month, I know exactly where every dollar of that $3,000 is going. The better you budget, the more you will start seeing that at the end of the month, you're coming out down to a T just about with how you planned your money and how it actually turns out. So once again, this is our first month of budgeting. So if I have an extra $350, I am not quick to spend it. I may just want to leave it sitting there just for the first couple of months to smooth out, just to make sure that my plan is accurate. I did plan everything down to a T. And then after a few months, if I see that this extra $350, it will be what I am expecting to be left over at the end of each month. At that point, I could start making plans as, okay, next month, 200 of that 350 is going to go into the S&P 500. And then the other, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in with me today as we went over budgeting with Dre, the simple way. I hope you all enjoyed the content. If you have any questions or concerns, please drop them down in the comments and I will do my best to get back with you. Stay tuned for more videos like this. Once again, I am just here to share my ingredients. It is up to you to create the recipe for your journey to financial freedom. Thank you all for tuning in with me. Once again, Dre out. Peace, love, happiness.